so for our second lateral line series here, we're gonna have Kai start with a somewhat modified kettlebell half kneeling windmill. So for this, you know, again, we're using a 15-pounder, so anywhere between 5 and 20 pounds is perfectly fine. So if she's got her left leg forward, right knee down, she's gonna start with the kettlebell in her left hand, and we'll kind of work from that rack position. So here we're gonna see reciprocating lengthening. So as she goes into this bending pattern, we'll create a pressing action with it. Notice she's bending through the ribs first, then moving the body second. Using the hand as a terminal point, pressurizing through the hand, staying in control from the kettlebell to the opposite fingertip, getting her end range breaths, and then working back to that start position here. So for this one, this is a little bit more focused on the upper portions of the lateral line. So we should feel a good stretch here through the oblique, through the lat, a little bit of the tricep maybe. On that bottom hand, we will actually probably get a little bit of bicep lengthening because of the terminal stability point. And then we'll get something in the hip here a little bit as well. For most people, this one shouldn't create too much difficulty, but if we do for some reason get top side shoulder pain here, just drop the weight, do it with nothing for a couple of reps, and see if that pain kind of subsides with an absence of load. Number 2, we are going to come back to the TRX here, and we're going to work almost like a short mini curtsy lunge here with an overhead reach. So for this one, you are going to want to make sure you check your length and your distance here. Sometimes TRX can be a little bit funny, but notice there's really no slack in the cable here for her starting position. So she'll go ahead and get into it here, initiate through the breath, hands going to be right at about shoulder level, and then she's just going to kind of step behind and then reach the hands the opposite way, but she is still pulling through the TRX on this bottom hand. So we're looking for this kind of banana shape or C shape on the outside of the body here. For this one, this will be a little bit more focused on the lateral hip muscles. So some of those smaller glute muscles, you know, we might get a little bit of QL, and then we'll definitely get some lat and oblique here in this one. So for this, your step pattern and your step distance should all be determined based on how much bend, how much mobility you have through this. As with most of these stretches, you'll notice you'll get, you know, a couple inches, just a little bit more range of motion with each subsequent rep. But great demo here from Kai. Number 3, we're gonna go into a half kneeling band overhead side bend. So for this one, we want to think moderate tension on the band. Too much tension on the band is going to kind of impinge or compress on the shoulders here. And we obviously want to keep that stretch more focused on the lat, oblique, and lateral hip group here. So for Kai, we see inside leg is going to be the leg inflection. And we're going to have her initiate this with the hands kind of right at the midline of the chest. And then as she does her initiating breath and goes into that reach pattern, we'll get a little bit of side bend in it. And you want to position this so that when you're in this position here, there's still good tension on the band, creating length and tensioning through that outside lateral line here. On this one, we want to also think about dropping the rib cage. So for this side, dropping the right side of the rib cage down to the hip, trying to open and expand on the left side of the rib cage, and again, kind of staying long through the arms here. Perfect. Number 4, last one for this lateral line series here. We're going to come back to the TRX. This is one some of you have probably seen from me before. It's one of my favorite stretches here. But this is just a split stance TRX sweep. So for this one, we're going to get a lot of stuff going here, but she's going to start by getting into a good split stance. Inside leg will be forward on this one, and we're going to start this with our inhale with a little bit of counter motion, kind of like we saw on the pigeon. So she'll breathe in and reach in towards that front leg. And then as she exhales, she's going to open up real big. Arms are going to stay in motion, and then her arms will finish perpendicular at that top end position there. Now she's getting her rebreathe pattern. Good. And then reset, rebreathe here in that first position. So again, with this one, you know, this is an all-encompassing stretch for sure. Different people are going to feel this in different places, but you know, we should get good rib motion, some lat, some oblique stretching, maybe a little bit of hip here. At this top position, I actually tend to feel it mostly in the front side of the shoulders. So kind of touching on that anterior aspect a little bit. In this position here, notice her right arm is dropping through the scapula, getting good reach there. And then again, kind of rotating up and around here, big chest in the finish. That's perfect.